Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at, a strategic document, but probably not the kind you're thinking of. No military plans or business models here. We're actually taking a really fascinating look at how spiritual outreach, specifically evangelism, is strategized, how it's executed effectively. The material calls it soul winning.
That's right. Our source material for this deep dive comes from Rhapsody of Realities by Pastor Chris. There's a specific devotional called Take Advantage of Soul-Winning Opportunities. And what's really compelling, I think, is that it pushes back against the idea that this kind of outreach is, random or just based on a feeling. Instead, it suggests the whole thing is actually planned, guided, meticulously even.
Exactly. So our mission really is to pull out the nuts and bolts of that framework. What's the guidance system? What are the actual steps? And what kind of mindset does someone need to, recognize and act on these moments? Because the text is clear right from the start. This isn't haphazard. It's coordinated. There's a leader, a, quote, master strategist.
And that strategist, according to this text, is consistently the Holy Spirit. Now, if we're thinking strategically, calling the Holy Spirit the master strategist, that implies something more than just, say, gentle encouragement or general guidance. It suggests, a high-level intelligence running the operation, someone who anticipates things.
That's a really important distinction, isn't it? We often hear about the Holy Spirit as like a guide or comforter, but this framing is purely tactical, operational. So how precise are we talking here? Is it just a general go talk to people?
Oh, it's far more precise than that. The text explains this guidance works from within, and the whole point is to make the witnessing effective. How? By guiding you on the right words to say, the specific actions to take. So the strategist seems to handle both the big picture, like who needs to hear this message, and the really small details of the actual encounter.
Okay, so if the guidance is that detailed, down to the exact words sometimes, that suggests, a pretty high chance of success, assuming the person follows the plan. But that sounds like the divine side of things. What about the human responsibility?
Right, and that brings us to what the text calls the open door principle. This seems really foundational to the strategy here. The source material is very clear. The Holy Spirit opens the door and expects you to recognize and seize the moment. So that's the point of human accountability. The divine strategy sets up the perfect window, the opportunity. But the believer, the person on the ground, needs the situational awareness to even notice it, and then the readiness to act quickly.
I think that's where the real tension is, right? If the guidance is so precise, what happens if you miss it? If you don't recognize that moment?
Well, the implication is total mission failure for that specific instance. That strategic window might just be momentary. If you're not tuned in, not prepared, the door closes. And that particular chance, maybe the only chance for that person, is lost. So this principle really hammers home that effectiveness depends completely on the believer being ready to receive the instruction and ready to act on it instantly.
That idea, that combination of precision guidance and immediate human response, it's perfectly shown in the example the source uses, which is that, incredible story of Philip and the Ethiopian eunuch in Acts chapter 8. This is held up as basically the template for how the strategy works in action.
Absolutely. And what's fascinating when you look at it through this strategic lens is how the guidance Philip received was layered. It wasn't just one vague instruction. It was more like a chain of command, moving from the general area to a hyper-specific target.
Okay, let's walk through that chain. So first, Philip gets a directive from an angel. And that's about going to a physical location, right? A general area, the road from Jerusalem down to Gaza. That's like the initial deployment, setting the stage.
Exactly, the setup. But once Philip gets there, to that geographical spot, then the master strategist, the Holy Spirit, steps in with the tactical move. So the angel gave the map coordinates, maybe, but the Holy Spirit identified the specific target. The source quotes the command directly from Acts. Then the Spirit said unto Philip, Go near and join thyself to this chariot.
Right, and that's the critical difference. It's not just hang out on this road. It's go connect with that specific vehicle right now.
That's incredibly precise. Does the text give any clues about how someone today is supposed to tell the difference between, say, general inspiration and that super specific tactical command?
It doesn't really give, a checklist, no. But it focuses more on the readiness of the person receiving the command. The reason Philip could receive and act on that precise instruction, the text suggests, is because he was already evangelism conscious. What does that mean? Well, it means he wasn't just spiritually idling. His antenna was up, He was actively looking for these open doors. That state of readiness made him immediately receptive when the strategist spoke.
Okay, so being evangelism conscious isn't passive. It's an active state of preparedness. It means when the instruction came, join that chariot, he didn't pause to check his schedule or ask, why this one? Are you sure? Precisely. Because he was already in that mindset, he understood the purpose of joining the chariot was, well, to share the gospel. The text really emphasizes that Philip didn't waste time. He didn't make small talk once he got to the chariot. He went straight into explaining the scriptures. And that lack of delay, that immediate understanding of the mission objective, is defined in the source as how soul winners operate. They move directly from the tactical instruction right into execution. They don't need the whole conversation scripted out beforehand.
That makes a lot of sense. If the divine side provides that level of precision targeting, the human side needs to provide immediate compliance. And that comes from already being ready. So let's pivot a bit. We've seen the divine strategy and the historical example. What about the required mindset and preparation for someone today? If you're not getting a full script, you've got to be equipped somehow beforehand, right? What does that preparation look like according to this material?
Right. The preparation seems to be twofold. There's a spiritual aspect and a methodological one. The text insists that when the Spirit opens that door, the believer needs to walk through it equipped and ready. And this is where the source gets very practical, actually. It offers the author's personal methodology as an example.
Ah, okay. This is where it gets really specific, maybe even a bit controversial for some listeners, depending on their background. The author talks about something he calls preparing the soil.
Yes, exactly. He recounts that often, before a conversation even starts, he's already, quote, speaking in tongues under my breath. Now, in the context presented here, this isn't just general prayer. It's framed as a specific spiritual action, a way to prepare the ground, maybe. The idea seems to be ensuring that the words spoken next are divinely guided and effective. It's like pre-conversation strategic prep work.
All right, that's a really key detail from the source's perspective. It's presented as a method to tap into the right words, set the right spiritual atmosphere before the actual interaction begins. And once that soil preparation is done, the approach shifts. It becomes incredibly direct.
Oh, absolutely. The author's very blunt about it. He stresses there's no time for, meandering chats about the weather. The instruction, his approach is, I don't waste time. I go straight to the point.
Wow. Okay, in today's world, that sounds potentially quite jarring. People can be pretty easily put off by very direct approaches, especially on sensitive topics like faith. Does the strategy address that risk? Or is the underlying assumption that because the Holy Spirit has supposedly orchestrated this exact moment, the usual social risks don't apply or are somehow overcome?
That seems to be the core implication, yes. Because the master strategist has opened this specific door, for this person at this time, the believer is basically instructed to trust that the timing is divinely perfect. And therefore, the message, even if it's direct, is necessary and will land correctly in that moment. The text even gives examples of the kinds of direct questions used, like straight up asking someone, have you received the Holy Spirit? Or are you born again?
Whoa, okay. Those are definitely high-stakes opening lines. There's no easing into it there. That level of directness, that urgency, it must be fueled by a really strong conviction. What's driving that need to just jump right in?
It seems to be driven entirely by the conviction that this specific opportunity might be unique. It might be unrepeatable for that individual. The author even poses this rhetorical question, which really explains the mindset. What if that's the only chance I'll ever get? What if it's their only opportunity to hear the gospel?
Right. Framing it like that changes everything, doesn't it? It turns any interaction where you feel that prompt into like a critical, time-sensitive mission, almost like a spiritual emergency response.
Precisely. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Imagine you had absolutely critical, life-saving information that had to be delivered immediately, and you knew this might be your only chance to see the person. You wouldn't waste time discussing sports scores, would you? So therefore, when that tactical nudge from the Spirit comes, the instruction is crystal clear. Seize the moment, speak boldly, and act. Act the second you recognize that open door. The entire strategy seems to hinge on that urgent, decisive human action immediately following the divine setup.
This has been, well, a really insightful breakdown of what's presented as a very high-stakes, precision-based spiritual strategy. So for you listening, let's just quickly pull together the main threads, the framework we've uncovered here.
Okay, so first, we establish the foundation. The Holy Spirit is presented as the master strategist. providing precise guidance covering the big plan and the tiny details, like the right words at the right time.
Hmm. Then we looked at the model, the template for how to respond, using that story of Philip and the eunuch. And the key there was seeing the difference between general direction, like the angel gave, and the specific tactical instruction from the Holy Spirit. And the big takeaway was needing to be evangelism conscious, that state of active readiness that allows for immediate action, no hesitation.
Exactly. And finally, we dug into the required human side, the preparation and the urgency. That includes the specific spiritual prep mentioned, like speaking in tongues quietly to prepare the soil, according to the author, and also that methodological commitment to a direct approach, which is really driven by that core belief this moment might be the only opportunity for that person.
Yeah. And if we look again at that layered guidance in the Philip story, Angel gives general direction, Holy Spirit gives the specific target, Philip executes immediately. It really frames the whole process like a relay race, doesn't it? A relay of guidance and action.
It does. And that kind of raises an interesting question for you to think about, maybe after you're done listening. If you accept this premise that opportunities are guided by a master strategist, and they might require just one precise moment of action from you, how does shifting your focus towards preparation and immediate readiness, rather than maybe waiting around hoping for the full script up front, how does that change how you might approach those high-stakes moments, whatever they are, in your own life? Is the goal just to be so ready, so attuned that when the target is finally lit up, you only need that one word go to launch? Something to consider.
For more information on how you can grow spiritually using Rhapsody of Realities, please visit our website, www.rhapsodyofrealities.org, or you can also visit rin.rhapsodyofrealities.org/salvation. Thank you.